Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. The Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. Hall will not be joining us this evening. He is working late tonight, as he is on every Thursday from this moment on. But now we are rejoined by Nick Akridge from Pro Football Focus. Thank you for joining us on this rainy Monday evening. Thank goodness not raining chemicals on us. But how are you doing, Nick?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me, guys. Always a blast.
Yeah, I was just kidding about those.
Yeah, sure. I'm used to it, man. You have that PFF handle in your name, you get used to any and all booing.
Funny story, real fast. I just got to say it because I said it in the Discord. Last year, PFF, I saw that they were hiring, so I was like, "Oh, let me apply here." And it asked for a reference. I put you down.
Really?
I told everybody that you told them not to hire me. I was like, "Why?" Yeah, everybody in our Discord chat.
I was a part of the hiring team last year, so I guess I missed that, or someone.
Oh yeah, that's
sure. He missed it, Reed. He missed it. Good job, Nick. Good job, Nick. That was a great recover. But speaking of recovering, it has been widely publicized that Eric Bienemy is in Ashburn today. It just got tweeted out by Nikki Giabala and others that he's still in the building. They took him out to dinner last night. So do you think, Eric, that it's going to happen that Eric Bienemy is going to be the OC? And kind of talk to me about the tools that Eric Bienemy is going to be working with. Do you think this is a good hire for Washington?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can poach someone from the Andy Reid tree, and the Eric Bienemy thing has been so weird over these past couple of years. No one really knows what has happened and why he doesn't have a head coaching job or anything like that. But if you can take the offensive coordinator from Super Bowl winning Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes Chiefs, like, you've seen what they've been able to do, and you can take that and have a lateral move to the commander. It doesn't really make much sense to me, but it looks like all signs are kind of pointing to Bienemy, and I feel like you have to be happy with that. I mean, he's going to be working with an arguably, not really even arguably, a better wide receiver group than he had in Kansas City last year. And then it's just it's all about the quarterback position. But I'm excited. I think I'd love to see what he does, outside of Andy Reid's shadow. But anytime you can poach from that tree, it's always a good choice.
And what does he do for the offense? Like with Kansas City, obviously we know what Andy Reid and what Pat Mahomes brings. But what does he go? Because with Eric Bienemy, him being a former running back, obviously from Colorado, everyone knows about his playing days of being influential, like kind of the attack style. Is that what we should be expecting? This is going to be the complete opposite of what Scott Turner's philosophy was?
No, I mean, I think you see it a lot with you could see similarities with Doug Peterson's offense, the Andy Reid offense. It's all kind of in that same group, and I would assume he's going to be using that same sort of system. And it's a lot of just creative motions, creative ways to get guys in space, and creative concepts to get your receivers in space. I mean, you see what they do with Travis Kelce. They use him so well, lined up as a tight end and in the slot, and even sometimes out wide. They just know how to put guys in the spot where they can succeed. And the Andy Reid tree is a very, very successful passing coordinator group, I should say. And that's kind of what we've wanted to see for a while. And, Scott Turner had some great stuff that he drew up. I said that I was a Turner fan, but I think it's kind of, similar in that sort. I think he's going to be creative, and it's just down to the quarterback position.
And Reed, I know I'm going to let you talk at some point in this episode. I think the longer we push it off, the better.
You know what I'm saying?
But let's say Washington does hire Eric Bienemy, Nick. How much does this elevate Washington's projection next season? Because obviously offense was one of the biggest issues this year. Defense was top 10 in a lot of categories. The offense was bottom league in a lot of those categories. Do you think that Eric Bienemy elevates his team to possibly being a playoff contender and winning a playoff game?
I think it's all the quarterback. I mean, I think I've been saying it for years. Like I just said with Turner, I was a fan of his. I think he's a good enough coordinator if you give him a quarterback. And I think Eric Bienemy is a good coordinator. We've seen it happen. I think the quarterback position is the most important. It always will be. And if you have Sam Howell, and if you have Bienemy who can kind of unlock what Sam Howell is good at, then yeah, it could take you into that next step. But it's all about the quarterback. It's always will be about the quarterback.
Right. It's weird. It's kind of confusing with what to expect from somebody like Eric Bienemy, because like Andy Reid's known as an offensive genius. I mean, his play calling, especially. Did Eric Bienemy even call plays over in Kansas City? Like, it wasn't his offense necessarily, right?
It was strange the way it was kind of set up. I've been reading a lot about that. Bienemy was kind of the go-between between Mahomes and Reid and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And he was kind of the guy with kind of worrying about adjustments and seeing how teams react to certain concepts and certain
before drives, like he would tell them like, this is what we're adjusting to, and
right, stuff like that. Obviously, we'll never know who's calling what play and when and all that sort of stuff, but he's obviously highly involved in the offense, and I think it should be a good hire.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was just confusing. I wasn't sure of the exact answer because like you always hear about how Andy Reid's some master play caller and one of the greatest of all time, and then I was just like, well, what did you do over there, Bienemy? Is this why you're not getting hired? What's going on? Or is it the dark arts from your past? I don't know. But anyway, go ahead, Kyle. You're free now. You can talk some more.
No, and then let's talk about the backup quarterback position. What do you think is going to happen there? Obviously, it has lots to do with what's going to go on at OC. But let's just say what's out there and what would be a good fit for Washington to bring up and to back up Sam Howell.
Heineke. Heineke. Why not? Why not? I mean, we've seen what Heineke can do. He's a serviceable backup, and I think people that want more from him, other than him being a serviceable backup, or the Heineke hive, as some people have called him, or the crazy ones that think he can be more than that. But he is a serviceable backup. He can come in, win you a game or two, and be competent. I don't think it's going to happen now that they're switching coordinators and whatnot. He's kind of Scott Turner's darling, basically. He kind of goes where Turner does. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think you kind of bring in a veteran guy, maybe a Jacoby Brissett or a Andy Dalton, kind of those sort of names that have been thrown around recently. And I think you draft somebody late again and, just keep throwing darts. But I think you'll have a veteran kind of backup. But like Ron's been saying, I think it's Howell's team.
Yeah, Nikki Giavala just tweeted out that she was told that the Commanders' talks at Eric Bienemy today were positive, and they are expected to continue through tomorrow into Friday.
So it's just going to keep going.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right, Nick, let's smoke our DMT and look into the future here. If you are at 16, what positions are you looking at? I know a lot still has to happen, free agency. I mean, the combine still has to happen, but what positions are you kind of leaning towards there?
Quarterback.
Okay.
Quarterback, if your guy's there. I've always said that forever. If you fall in love with the guy and he's there, you take him. I don't care what your situation is, unless you have Patrick Mahomes.
Kyle knows all about falling in love with guys. Kyle's like, really.
I learned from the best, Reed. I learned from the best. But speaking of that,
you guys up for that.
Yeah, speaking of that, Nick, let's talk about the draft coming up in these prospects. I kind of want to know their grades from Pro Football Focus. I didn't know this before, but Pro Football Focus actually does scouting for draft prospects coming into the NFL. So if you can, let's talk about the one position that everyone seems to be doing, and that's offensive line. But let's break that down to tackle. Who are the best rated tackles that the draft have to offer per PFF?
Yeah, so we have we just released our draft guide that we've been kind of releasing over the past 3 years, and it's pretty much Mike Renner's baby. A lot of you guys, if you're going to follow me, you'll probably follow him. He's our draft guy. So a lot of these rankings are his rankings, and the draft guide I think is probably the best. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's the best draft content anybody puts out. It's incredibly detailed with the grades and the stats and kind of projections and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's my company push that I have to do since I do work for them. But so if we're looking at tackles, his top three right now are Paris Johnson, Ohio State, Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, and then Broderick Jones from Georgia. Each of those guys, well, Paris Johnson 83.1 last year, Skoronski 89.5 overall, and then Broderick Jones 78.2. But a lot of times with these grades, you really have to look at the talent that they went up against in the context of all that stuff. Obviously, Broderick Jones is going to have a bit of tougher schedule in the SEC going against those guys. So kind of makes sense why his grade is a little farther down, but still 78.2 in the SEC is.
Is that strictly left tackles?
Yeah, dude.
That's just tackles.
Okay.
I can look up left and right. But
do you expect Skoronski to stay at tackle? I know a lot of people are saying that he's expected to have short arms, but he did so well in college at tackle. So
the thing about switching tackles to guards and all that sort of stuff, like the Cosme talk and all that kind of stuff with short arms, he's done it. We've seen him do it. Right. And I haven't watched Skoronski. I don't really know much about him, but we've seen these guys perform at tackle and be very, very good at tackle going up against top competition. I get their arms might be a little shorter, but if they can play the position, they should be at that position. I don't think you should try to move them out of a position they've never played. Like Cosme has played tackle his entire life, and moving him to guard is just makes it harder for him. I think the whole arms thing is always blown out of proportion. Same with quarterback hands and size and all that sort of stuff. Now, like I always kind of look at it, unless it's a major outlier, then I don't really think of it as much of a problem.
Right. That's where I like looking at him going against guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, Micah Parsons, Montez Sweat. I just don't feel like he could hang for 6 times in a season, and that's why I would be concerned about it. Like I feel like someone like DeJuan Jones is where you want to go.
Are we talking about Skoronski for that one?
Yeah.
I mean, I got to get into all of these guys. I'm so lazy with my freaking draft
content
right now. But I think you just got to find somebody that you know can be. You don't need to find an incredible athlete. You just need average to above average play at offensive line.
Yeah.
We need dominant. We need dogs. We need bloodsuckers is what we honestly need. Now, can we talk about the cornerback position? From Pro Football Focus, who's looking the best from the grades from last year? Because for me, I'm looking at Devin Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez at 16 there. What does PFF say about the corners?
Yeah, those are the top 2 guys. Devon Witherspoon had a 92.0 overall grade last year, which is the second highest out of over 900 corners. So yeah, he's our top guy right now. Christian Gonzalez is right behind him. 81.2 overall grade last year. And then Joey Porter is the third on that list with a 73.2 overall grade.
It's interesting because all 3 of those guys are very similar inside. I mean, Witherspoon's obviously a little bit smaller, has more positional versatility, but like Gonzalez and Porter especially, they should test out of this world. And they're both similar builds, similar athleticism, and things like that. But so you talked about quarterback earlier, and I know we're not going to go too deep into it, but if somebody fell there to 16, who do you think it would be? Because obviously, like Bryce Young, I would imagine Stroud and possibly Levis are going to be going top 10, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird, this kind of group. I mean, Bryce Young, if he was like 3 inches taller and maybe 20 pounds heavier, he would be surefire number 1 pick.
Right.
People would call him generational type prospect and all that sort of stuff. But he's tiny. Like this is the type of thing I'm talking about. Like unless you're a huge outlier, like he is not 6 foot. He's not 190.
And he's not just like Kyler Murray tiny. Like he's like a bean. He's thin, very thinly built.
Yes, it's so strange because he's one of the few guys that I've really gone through and actually studied a lot. He's one of the smartest processor from the quarterback position that I've seen. Like again, if he was just a few inches taller and a little heavier, he would be number 1 by far and would kind of push my grade towards Trevor Lawrence on him. But he's not. He's very small. I saw him get absolutely killed in the SEC competition, but he kept getting right back up. And so, I mean, I don't know. He's an interesting guy. And then Levis and Richardson, I think, are the same type of quarterbacks, and the fact that they're huge arms, toolsy type of guys, but you haven't really seen them put it all together. I'm a Richardson fan. I know that causes a lot of stir with some people on Twitter, but I think if you can figure out the accuracy and the footwork concerns with him, I think the sky's the limit. So I'm thinking that type of quarterback would maybe fall to that spot. Obviously, you have to see what happens with the first overall pick with what the Bears are going to do, but I think if Anthony Richardson is there at 16, I would be taking him. I know why they wouldn't. I understand the whole, not really off the field issues, but everything that's going on around the team and that sort of stuff. And you don't really know how much longer this staff's going to be here. But yeah, if he's there at 16, I'd be sprinting to the board to pick him.
Now, to wrap this up, Nick, I only have a couple more questions for you. First one being, Derek Forrest and Cam Curl, they really took a step forward this season as a safety tandem. Were they the best safety tandem in the NFL last season?
They were up there for a long time, and then once Cam Curl got hurt, it kind of really hurt Derek Forrest's grade just because of the fact that he's put in a position that he's not really played as much, and I think Cameron Curl just kind of showed how important he really was to this whole defense. But Curl was the second highest grade behind Kyle Hamilton, but he also played 130 more snaps than him. So for me, that's my highest graded safety. But Derek Forrest fell down quite a bit into the 40 ranges with a 67 overall grade, just because he was put in a spot that he wasn't really playing throughout the year. But when those two were playing together, they were 1-2 in the league. according to our grading.
All right, and then my next question: what is more likely to happen? Derek Carr is signed here as a free agent, and Washington has a Super Bowl appearance, or Sam Howell starts the whole season and they win a playoff game.
Jesus.
We asked the groundbreaking questions here, man.
I would say that the more likely thing is Sam Howell and winning a playoff game. I don't think Derek Carr comes here. I don't think they sign anyone like him. And even if he does come here, I don't think you're sniffing the playoffs. We've seen it happen. So I'd go Sam Howell, even though I think that's a giant long shot.
Yeah, it's too bad that Hall's not here to hear that, unfortunately. Last question I have.
I know he's a big Derek Carr fan, so I had to get that out while he wasn't here.
Smart man, very smart man. Now to wrap this up, Nick, last question for you. Let's just say the Commanders approached you, they hit you in the DMs, and they said, "Hey Nick, we're entertaining Eric Bienemy tonight. We're taking him out to dinner. What's the restaurant that you're recommending and why?"
You better think hard about this. Yeah.
There's a restaurant, one of my favorites in college, called BJ's Brewhouse. It's up here as well. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. That's a great one.
Where's it?
I don't know where it is. I think it's in Tyson's around here.
Okay.
I think. But I used to go to it all the time in college down in Christopher Newport University.
Love BJ's.
All right, I'm just gonna end it there.
What?
No, good ones. There's because he's gonna be in the Ashburn area. That's right around me. So maybe I gotta start going to all the local restaurants. Some of the high end ones. See if I can sneak on in there, throw a resume at him.
Yeah,
Golden Corral.
Yeah, that's probably a good place to start. Yeah, great one to start. Nick, I can't thank you enough for joining us, brother, and being able to give us your 2 cents on the draft and everything coming up with Pro Football Focus. Until next time, brother, I can't thank you enough for joining us.
Hey, see you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Nick. Have a good night, brother. All right, everybody, we just spoke with the man, Mr. Nick Akridge with Pro Football Focus. I didn't know that he was a part of the hiring process, and it's even more awkward now that you used him as a reference.
He said he didn't see it, so I think I'm all right there. So, you know.
I'm not sure if I believe you.
I just don't get the Golden Corral is a good place, you know.
It is, dude. They get their leftovers from the dumpster. No big deal. Who doesn't do that? You know what I'm saying? But no, let's get into our prospect breakdown, brother. So we're gonna break down 2 prospects that we highlighted to look at in the NFL draft, just to give you our thoughts on them and what we expect and what we saw. So who do you have today?
I have Cody Mauch, everybody's favorite offensive tackle from North Dakota State University. He's got he's just got the long, luscious red hair that you see on him, and he's got the goofy beard. He's missing teeth too, so that's always cool. It's always fun to get an offensive lineman like that who just looks like a hockey player, but he's not Canadian, so that's good. He's 6'6", 303. At least that's what the North Dakota State website has him as.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame, NDSU, same thing. The North Dakota State website has him as.
He looks like your type, you know. He looks like your type of guy.
That's exactly
if that's
why
what you
I
were
picked
into.
him to be,
yeah.
Right, and he dominated at North Dakota State, and he's really one of those small school prospects right here that's kind of flying up the boards. He should be an early day 2 pick, I would imagine.
There's been a lot of North Dakota State offensive linemen that transition to the NFL and do well.
Yeah, they've done a good job
in the NFL right now. Yeah,
exactly. And with him, it's interesting because you talk about like he's big because he's 6'6", but you talk about positional versatility. I mean, this dude, he could start left tackle, he could play right tackle, he could slide inside to guard, which I think is where most people expect him to end up. And they're saying now that they want him to play center. He said he's getting a lot of looks. He's been talking to a lot of coaches about playing center. So he's just somebody who seems like every year you have some of those small school guys. We saw it last year. We saw it the year prior that kind of come up the boards and they end up being solid starters. I think he's that guy this year, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes because he's somebody you want to follow. He's funny as shit. He seems like a real cool dude during his interviews. That has nothing to do with being a football player, but I think I got to put some stock into that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I didn't break down his game at all, but that's good. That's fine.
He looks like he could drink a beer with like Taylor Heineke, right? Like he looks like one of those guys that doesn't even have to drink when he drinks a beer. Like it just all goes down in one sip. You know,
he looks like one of those guys who, when he gets mad and gets into a fight, he cries. Yeah, he's like, you know,
definitely
like Kyle. Yeah, like
I was going to say you, and of course you beat me to it. But the guy that I'm breaking down today is Matthew Bergeron. He's a left tackle from Syracuse, a junior, 6'5", 323 pounds. A very interesting prospect. He looks kind of slender, almost like how Sam Cosmi looked at Texas. Remember, if you go back and look at it, more like the upper body is built. Once you get to the waist, it's more like thinner, and it's not a bad thing. But looking at him at first glance, he's very technically sound, but he can get beaten in the power game, especially inside and outside with rip moves. But for the most part, his footwork is very good. The one great thing about him, I think, is when he pulls. He's like very flexible. He's got easy, smooth hips. So when he's coming through that pull, it's almost like a deer running. It's almost like galloping through. Very smooth transition for him to get through it as a pull. And that's why we were talking before we recorded, Reed. And I was almost thinking, like, I almost want to see him at center in a way, because he just seems to be very good in that capacity, and also good at inline blocking. But once you start getting into like the hand usage, it can be kind of loose sometimes, and that's why I think center would really benefit him, because on the outside, your hand usage is crucial. Your footwork obviously is very necessary as well, but when you're going against Micah Parsons and others, you have to pay attention to that detail, and you have to be able to execute it if you are not physically gifted in the way that can nullify those other issues, like somebody like DeJuan Jones or Darnell Wright would have a better chance to be able to do that because of their size and ability and what they offer as tools. But Matthew Bergeron is right now rated as a 3rd-round pick, and this is somebody I think that when you bring in, it's almost like a Chris Paul type, but at left tackle, whereas like he has all the fundamentals correct, but he's not going to dominate anyone, so to speak. But that's somebody you could feel confident in and plugging in.
And that's the other with Bergeron, is he's so experienced. He's played so many games that he's somebody that you got to feel confident, like has the mental aspect of it down. And that's also like him and Mock are almost similar in the way, because like they both have such good like lateral agility, like they move side to side really well. But like it's kind of similar with Mock. Like Mock just doesn't seem to have. I know we talked about arm length earlier, but like there's something awkward about either his arm length or his hand placement or something when you watch him. And that's one of those things that's concerning. I would imagine that's why part of the reason they would want to slide him inside. But I feel like it's got to be similar with Bergeron. I haven't watched him a bunch yet, because we talked about it earlier. Syracuse's film sucks on YouTube.
Yeah, it does.
But I do like Bergeron. I do think that he could be successful for sure.
Yeah, and I kind of noticed with him, whenever he gets his second level, because of how like slim his body is, it's almost like he like slips through where he doesn't get caught, or like it's not delayed at all. He's just getting to the second level. And I thought that was kind of telling about why I thought he'd be a good center, being able to have that body, being able to dip in underneath guys, get to the second level, and not being constrained. Because like when I watched Steve Avila, his 2022 tape, I told WCC that I wasn't very impressed with him playing at guard, but apparently his 2001 film is very good at center. But regardless, his 2022 film, it was like he was very hard for him to get to the second level. He's more of a round kind of prospect, and that's why I kind of was using it to gauge Matthew Bergeron, is I think he's very, very smooth at being on the move.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. And Avila's stuff is interesting because like he's big, like just such a big body dude. Like he's such a fat hog. And like that's the only time you can call somebody that and not feel bad. Like that's a good thing. But his center tape is interesting too, because like somebody who's that powerful up front at center, but he still has pretty good athleticism, I think is always super interesting to be in there manning like the nose tackles and stuff. When people line up directly over center, it shouldn't be as big of a detriment as having a 300-pound center in there, you know? So I think Avila is interesting, but yeah, I didn't get, there was a bunch of hype about him. I didn't know that his 21 tape was better, so I got to check that out. But.
Yeah, I don't understand the craziness for Skoronski at 16. I really don't. Nothing really jumped out on film to me. That's
really he seems very technically sound to me.
He is, and like that's what I mean is like a plug and play guard is what my kind of viewpoint was. But
I think he's very similar to Sheriff with his shorter arms and stuff.
Exactly,
like
and
that talked about. Yeah,
but my difference is that Sheriff, like I've talked about so many times, like whenever on film in college, whenever he ran, he was an animal. He was looking to rip people's heads off, and that's not really what Skoronski's game is. It's much more
of a technician,
right? And that's why I don't feel like the 16 really makes sense in my personal opinion. Like I want that monster. I want to be able to have a mentally and physically imposing offensive line that by the third quarter you're pissed off and you just want to get off the field because these guys keep throwing your face into the ground. That's the kind of offensive line I want, and that's why like DeJuan Jones, Darnell Wright, and Anton Harrison, those are the names I really am looking at 16 if Witherspoon and Gonzalez are gone.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, I know you weren't the biggest on it, but I do like Paris Johnson a lot. I think that Paris Johnson, just his size and athleticism, really molds well with what you expect out of a franchise left tackle.
Rounder.
And no, he's not second rounder. I don't think so. Just because his name's Paris, and I know that you hate the French, doesn't mean that you got to make him a
I
second
don't hate
rounder.
the French. Don't say
you
that.
You do. You say that all
rude.
the time. You do. You talk about it all the time. All the time. Every time we're off air, you're always like, "Oh, what are you doing? Gonna quit just like them?"
This next question is from the Colonel. You're so stupid. This next question from the Colonel. If Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson is still available when the Commanders pick at 16 in the NFL draft, will the front office be tempted to select him, or are we all in on a corner?
See, that's very interesting. It depends, dude. If they get a new owner, or which they should, I mean, I would imagine, but nothing would really be off the table. And it depends on we don't know who we're getting right now. Like, what if this dude comes in? He's like, we're gonna make a splash, and this is gonna be our guy. But I don't like that. I'm not big on Anthony Richardson. Like I said, that dude makes some incredible plays, and that nobody else can make. He makes plays that I've never seen Cam Newton make. I mean, and he's a similar mold of quarterback. He's unreal, but he also just doesn't. He's so far away, and I just think that if you're gonna bank on a young quarterback right now, you kind of saw what Sam Howell could do. He's got a season. I think that you just kind of got to stick with him, and he's going to be your young guy, maybe son, a veteran like we've talked about. And I don't think that they should. I would imagine that Ron Rivera and Bienemy and these guys, if I'm jumping the gun, I admit it, but if Bienemy's here, whoever's here at offensive coordinator is going to say, like, look, this is going to be the route that we're going to take. We are going to roll with this 5th round pick who's on a small contract and save some money a little bit, and because we think he can do it. So I'm hoping that's it, and they're going to build the team around him. But if Snyder's there too, you can't count anything out. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm wearing the jersey that Colonel got me for Christmas.
It's such a nice jersey. Colonel, where's mine?
Got the black Terry McLaurin. So now Terry McLaurin is the only Washington player I've ever had 3 separate jerseys for. And I think it's well warranted. Yeah, I think everyone knows that Terry is my guy. He's been my guy for a long time. I'll be screaming that he's an elite wide receiver probably when I'm laying in my casket. Hopefully not, though. But
in like a few months, probably.
Stop, man. Anthony Richardson, if the world keeps going down the way it is. But
dude, it's crazy.
It is crazy. Now, Anthony,
what is happening?
I don't know, man. I wish I knew. Anthony Richardson is very. It's a really funny kind of situation because like last season we saw what happened with the quarterbacks. Right, people were talking about Malik Willis. We talked about it earlier. Like Malik Willis was rumored to be a 2nd overall pick. Didn't go until the 3rd round. It was or something like that. So it kind of shows you that people are going to say all of this, but I think the NFL has wised up. I know we all want the quarterback. I think they understand that they want the quarterback, but you can't just put a square peg into a round hole and expect it to work. And that's what a lot of the teams are doing over the years, just trying to get a quarterback. And yeah, you should always be doing that, but it was also killing their teams. I feel like they are adjusting at this time, realizing that maybe you don't have to have 4 quarterbacks go in the first round anymore. Like you don't have to do that. They'll possibly be available in the 2nd or 3rd round. A guy like Hendon Hooker, which I would much rather go down the path of waiting until the 3rd or 4th round for a quarterback in like Hendon Hooker, who had an injury this season at Tennessee, and a Virginia Tech boy. That has nothing to do with my feelings for him. I just think that he progressed a lot this season, and that's somebody that you could take with low capital and really get the most out of because the expectations are low. He can help be the 3rd quarterback on the roster, develop him, and maybe he forces people out. But it's not like you're marrying yourself to him at all by any stretch.
He's coming off a big injury, and I know he's a little bit older, but nowadays the age doesn't really matter that much. But you like him because he went to Virginia Tech. I like him because Hooker.
It is if you're Ezra Miller, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome last name. Hooker's a great last name, I think I've heard. I like that.
No, you said age doesn't matter, and I said like Ezra Miller. But I will.
Is that the Flash?
Yeah, the Flash.
Yeah, that guy's cool. Yeah, he's a nice guy.
But with the cornerback, I know I've been very adamant about saying Christian Gonzalez, Anton Harrison, Darnell Wright. But like that's where I am at 16. I know I love Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez, and I would love for them to. I think that's where the talent is. But I feel like these other guys are available in that area that aren't going to be available in your once your 2nd round pick comes back around. And that's where I kind of come up to it, where is if Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter are off the board or whatever have you, do you have to go after the next DB because you want a DB, or do you get the next best player available? And that's where I kind of looking at with tackle, guard, and that's where I would like to go with. If you're drafting Skoronski to play tackle, I feel like that is a mistake. I feel like you have to know that he most likely is going to be kicked in at guard, and I feel like you're going to realize he's going to get kicked into guard when Montez Sweat's whooping his ass in training camp, and you're like, oh man, what do we do at left tackle now? And that's my whole issue with that whole line of thinking. But looking at it, I like some other players there, of course, but I think tackle and corner are where I really like that pick 16.
I think so too. And the interesting thing about both of those positions is you can still get a starting player on day 2 at both of those positions,
and even at corner as well.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, corner's deep this year, dude. Corner it doesn't have a Sauce Gardner or Derek Stingley or these guys, but it's deep. Like they've got some good guys that are going to go on day 2. But back to the Anthony Richardson, the only thing with him is it's like the only reason I would consider it is because if you do end up hitting with him, his ability is so rare that like you knocked it out of the park. The only thing is, what are the chances of that happening? You know, like it's not big from what you could see based off of his film. So it's interesting in that sense. But yeah, somebody's going to take a flyer on him, and if he goes in the right situation, which is the same thing for every goddamn quarterback ever, that's 99% of whether a quarterback is going to be good or not. I think is going to the right situation with the right coach, the right team around him. Whether or not they handle pressure with having to start right away or sitting on the bench, whatever. So it's somebody has a chance to get a very good player. I just don't want it to be us.
I got you. Now this next question is from Commander's Call on Twitter. DM me, which is a great question. With the sale of the team becoming more realistic and the momentum starting to pick up now that the season is officially over, what do you all want to see in the new owner/ownership group? If they were to bring you in as a consultant, what would you set as the priorities to set them up for success?
So if they came in now after this exact or during this off season or whatever, the first thing that I would do is I would be like, look, we're going to ride out for sure this season. We'll give Rivera whatever they want to do. We're going to ride it out this season. We're going to let them stick this through. We're going to see if we advance, if we get better or whatever. And if we do, then we have our stuff in place. They can kind of mess around, do whatever, promote whoever to head coach once Rivera leaves, or Rivera can stay there, whatever. But we're going to stick this through. We're going to give Sam Howell the chance. We're not going to go in there and try to trade up and say, oh, look, we made a huge splash. Now this is our guy. We're just going to let the football guys handle football. And the reason that I'm saying that is because for so long, it's always been this dude is sticking his nose in our business and making us draft Dwayne Haskins, RIP, shout out to Dwayne, making us draft Dwayne Haskins, making us trade up for RG3 and signing all these free agents that coaches are like, we can't, like, this doesn't fit. This guy doesn't fit with us. This isn't who we want, but because it's a big name. So I would just be like just sit back, dude, just provide money and have fun at the games and do whatever else you got to do. Just keep your goddamn paws off my team.
Yeah, and I think that's objective number one, to be perfectly honest. That's my biggest gripe with Snyder over the years, obviously, up until the allegations and everything like that. But if they were to bring me in as a consultant, how would I set them up for success? The first thing I would say is let's go on and let's research GMs. Let's see up-and-comers around the league, who's talked about in a highly innovative kind of thinker, somebody who
is a lot of guys out there.
Right, and so that way I would say, but let's hire the GM after the draft, and then let's move their front office after the draft so the new GM has a whole season to be able to prep for the new draft. Now, once
you wouldn't stick it out with Mayhew and with the Martys?
Because I don't know how this new ownership feels about the coaching staff. And so the way that I'm assuming is that most likely what everyone imagines is going to happen. And I think that if you're going to do that, you have to start by getting a GM in here so he could go through the year with Rivera, kind of see how this team is built, see his vision for it. Because to have this be an easy transition, you have to know what you have. You can't come in as a foreigner and just say, this needs to go, blah, 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 blah. You have to be able to be integrated with the product that you have and then make the move on how to make it more sustainable, how to make it more successful. So I feel like getting the GM is first and foremost.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kyle. I thought you were my thing first, but who knows more about transitioning than you, being born as a woman, and now look at you.
And now we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Deuce from Redzone in the lab. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. How y'all doing?
I can't complain, brother. Yeah. Especially now that you're here. We're just waiting for the Eric Bienemy news. Hopefully, unless the rug's gonna be pulled out from under us, and we're gonna be pissed. But we had a
what
question.
If it's Jim Zorn?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Don't talk about that. Now we had a question from the Commander's Call, and let's just say I'm paraphrasing, but let's just say the Commanders brought you in as a consultant for the new ownership group. What would you be telling them to do as a consultant to set them up for success?
I mean, the first thing I would do is, hey, look, yes, you need to know a little bit what's going on the football side, right? Meet with Ron Rivera, see what's going on, see his plan, what he can do for this next year, and kind of leave that where it is, right? Most important thing is trying to build these relationships back up with these, Congress people about trying to get this stadium built and trying to get this plan in place and get this business back up and good standards. I think that's the first thing we need to worry about is getting the business side under control because we got to get this stadium deal in hand. We have to get it signed. Whatever it is we have to do, whatever relationships that was, oh man, that was burnt away over the years. Like we have to reestablish those relationships and getting good business order and able to try to get this stadium up within the next 5 years.
Yeah. So what you're saying is they got to invest in back scratchers because that is the one way you get politicians on your side. Is you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and that's how the game is played. To your point. Now this
gotta
next,
do what you got to do.
Yeah, Reed knows all about that.
Yeah, I do. I think I
now this next question is, it's just for some reason you started it today. I got to go back and forth. Now this
I'm serious.
Next question is from a Deuce on Twitter. Do you think we tag Payne or let him walk, Deuce?
It kind of depends, right? Yeah, it kind of depends, right? Hopefully they able to get a. And speaking of back scratcher, I think
the best
most
low-dollar investment you can make is
exactly.
So nice. Yeah.
Oh man, I would really like to get him extended. I really want to get his deal down and in the books before Chris Jones, Lawrence, and Keenan Williams get theirs done. Like I really want to get his done. But if they're not able to do it, I believe they will. Tag them and kind of try to work on it, before, what is it, July something, whatever that date
July
is.
9th, I believe, right?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Try to get that deal done. So I don't want to tag them. I want to go into this off season free and clear, not worrying about, the tag and those things. But if they can't get a deal done prior to that, then I'm sure they'll tag them.
Yeah, because obviously the projected contract value I think is 4 years, 80 million, 20 million per. Obviously the tag franchise tag amount is like 19.5 million. That's a heavy penny, and Carson Wentz right now is the highest paid for this season. I think at 28. Obviously getting him out of here will help a lot. But then the highest paid I think would be Jonathan Allen. And then it would be Daron Payne. And so I can understand why people looking at that would say, that's kind of a concern to have all that money tied up in your defensive tackle position. But at this point, the Phidarian Mathis injury, I said it back then, that was going to throw a big issue into this situation in particular, because now they don't have the confidence to say, yes, we're willing to walk away with Daron because how well Phidarian Mathis played. The injury did not show you anything. You don't have confidence built. And so now it kind of puts them in a corner in a way, and I could see why Ron Rivera joked in saying that, yeah, maybe we should have offered him a contract now because Phidarian got hurt. But I don't know what happens with Daron. I hope that he is here long term and they're able to make it work. I'm not in the numbers game, so I don't know how they're going to be able to retain these guys because I don't want to. If you were to ask me, in extending Daron Payne would mean that Cam Curl would leave, I'm not sure I'm okay with that. I think Cam Curl is way too important for this to walk away from. And so that's where I kind of draw up there. I don't know, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys basically touched on all the, I think I want him here, but yeah, the money thing is a little concerning, but it's not my money. I don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? But I will say, I do think it's cool that Jonathan Allen came out and said that he was like, dude, just do what's best for your family, man. Just take care of yourself. Yeah. Do whatever you got to do to make sure your family's taken care of. Thought that was pretty cool to see. Love that brotherhood.
Yeah, we all work. I mean, we know what it's like. You're not supposed to look in other man's pockets, right? But I want to ask this question to you. I want to ask this question to you two, and I also want to ask this to all of our listeners, either on YouTube, on podcast. You can comment on it or send us a DM what your answer is. But let's just say the Commanders reached out to you, Redzone, and said, hey, we want to know where we should take Eric Bienemy out to dinner in the area to try to bring him on and impress him a little bit. What restaurant are you suggesting?
DC Prime, hands down. It was always when we went out to Ashburn a few years ago, and I always wanted to go to that restaurant that they always talk about. I'm thinking players may be there or whatever. So we ended up going to DC Prime because we stayed at that Marriott that's right next to it. And when you first go in, they just treat you like royalty. and that place is very expensive, but the food is good, the customer service is good, and then people will walk in like, they got suits and stuff on. You think, man, maybe that was somebody that worked for the team. Let me see if I know this person. If I know this person, because you get so many reports of, the players that's like a normal spot for them during the week. So, but I'm quite sure they took him to DC Prime for sure.
Yeah, for me, without a doubt, I'm pretty sure all you guys know exactly where I'm saying. Texas Roadhouse all day, dude. As soon as he tastes those buns, it's a wrap. But Tim Towner said something about having a sweet tooth. They have fantastic desserts. You get to pick which one you want. And plus, I just love the food. There's not a chair in the place. Everything is a booth. It's kind of private in a setting. I feel like that's a good place to take Eric Bienemy, because nobody dislikes Texas Roadhouse, to be perfectly honest. It's America under a roof, in my personal opinion. So for me, it's Texas Roadhouse without a doubt.
Yeah.
Reed said McDonald's, I think, earlier.
Nah, Golden Corral, fam.
Oh no, you did say not? Golden Corral,
but
I have another one. I just forget the name of it, so I'm waiting for Marley to text me back about what the
Fogo
name
de
is.
Chao?
Huh? No,
Fogo de Chao?
Kyle, no. Okay, stop naming all these C-list places. All right, come on.
Fogo is really good.
Wait, no,
but
it is good. But
I asked our Discord chat
server
server what they
Michelin
would do.
Restaurant, like the place I'm talking about. So log off.
I asked our Discord chat server what they would do, what restaurant they would recommend. Joker said, I'd choose Burger King. And when he is about to order, Ron Rivera can remind him that just like that burger, you can have it your way with our offense. Damn,
very good, Joker. That is Joker brained.
Yeah,
that is something that only a maniac would think of to
do. Tim Towner said Ted's Montana Grill. He's a former Colorado Buffalo, and Ted's has option for a bison burger, bison chili, and a really good Kahlua brownie, and he seems to have a big sweet tooth, is what Tim said.
Okay.
Chris Comerton said, I'm a big seafood guy, so I'd take him to Hook and Reel for a Cajun boil pot. Hook and Reel is delicious, bro. My wife and I get it all the time. It is so good. Scott Hartley said McDonald's, that he's used to eating with cheeseburgers with Andy Reid post-game. That's screwed up, man.
Hey, Andy Reid has a field day about that too, so,
Oh, that's messed up. Andy Lockhart said chili bowl so he can be shot. That's messed up,
Jesus, Andy Lockhart?
I know,
Good
man. What's
God.
with that, dude? That's rude, Andy.
Talk about dark humor.
Now, Redzone, this next question from Scott Hartley in the UK. Oi, you are the GM and have the same cap space. Who are you signing long-term first? Chase Young, Montez Sweat, or Cam Curl?
That's kind of unfair. Let me see. So, just the same cap. So basically, we putting all of them to like the contract years, right? Like this off season,
right?
Contract years.
Like let's just say they all are about to be free agents,
yeah,
and you have to choose one.
I mean, from what we know as far as production and just kind of looking at the ceilings, I would have to take Chase Young, just because of his projected ceiling and what he can be. And I know, he was injured last year. He started off slow the prior year, but he was still did all the other things except for actually getting sacks, right? He's got the pressures. He's one of the elite run defenders. He was doing all those different types of things, but he just didn't have the sacks, which a lot of people look at, which is very unfair. And I think it's very lazy. But then when he came back out, this year against the number one left tackle in the league, he threw him around a couple times, right? So when you see things like that, you see that this guy can be something special, but he needs to work on his hand placement. Like he has to do more to be able, if he wants to become that elite pass rusher. But, just looking at ceilings, I would take Chase Young.
Yeah, Reed would absolutely love for Chase Young to throw him around a little bit. Reed loves
a little bit. No, I would. Remember when him and Montez Sweat made fun of me? Or I'm sorry, Montez really made fun of me more so than anything. Called me a Fed. That wasn't cool. That was a nice Montez.
He wasn't far off either. You can understand.
No, he's not. I was undercover. I was like, dude, you're blowing my goddamn cover.
You look like a Fed. Let's just be honest.
Well, I know.
For me, Scott, I'm signing Cam Curl, and the reason for that is ever since the passing of Sean Taylor, I felt like this team was trying to find the replacement at safety that could be able to do that. For many, many years, we've been trying to find that starter that we could solidify the Reed Dowdys of the world. We were just exchanging Laurent Landry. Go down the list of all the different safeties we brought in here. And
Adam Archuleta.
Right, and Merriweather obviously is another one, but he did very well, but he was only here briefly, right? Cam Curl is what we have grown here. And that's not an issue I want to have arise again. We finally have consistency from the safety standpoint, and it helps us out not only in the passing game, but in the run game a heck of a whole lot. So for me, I'm signing Cam Curl long term. And I feel like that you can get you're going to get the same player post payment that you were before, in my personal opinion. That's just how I feel about it. No disrespect to Montez or Chase. I think they deserve it. But just because of the history of that position here, I feel like we can't let that go because I don't want to have that problem arise again.
Right. And so it was, if you could re-sign one of
Chase
those
Young,
three.
Montez Sweat, Cam Curl, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see, that's tough though, because I mean, if Chase Young or Montez has a breakout over the next couple of years, I mean, obviously that's a premier position. That's somebody that that affects the game so much. But at the same time, Cam Curl, look at what he meant to this defense during this season. I mean, the defense didn't really turn it on until he came back. So I don't know. That's a very tough one. I'm gonna just let you guys box it out over it because I don't feel like putting in any input. You know what I'm saying?
And this info just came out that the Commanders wide receiver coach Drew Terrell has been requested by the Cardinals for their offensive coordinator job, the source said. He's only 31 years old. Obviously, he's gotten a lot out of Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and Diami Brown. Obviously, he was only a wide receiver coach for, I think, 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. So, obviously, he's
impressive.
getting up there. But I hope that we say no to it because I don't want Drew Terrell to leave. I'm not even sure if we interviewed Drew Terrell for OC.
How messed up would that be?
I don't think you can, though, because it's a promotion.
If you're like, you know what? You can't go make more money. You're going to stay here at the lower level for as long as we feel like, dude. You're trapped. That would be so messed up if we were straight up like, nope, can't go interview for OC or head coach, dog. You're staying here as a wide receiver.
We don't want you to go there just for you to be fired in a year. We're not going to do that to you. You don't want to go to Kyler Murray. You want to stay here with Terry, with Jahan, and finish this thing out, dude. That's why I don't want him. Obviously, I would, if I had the finger on the, I would let him go. But I'm just saying, as a fan, as an idiot, I'm just saying, no, don't let him go. Yeah. We have a good thing going here. And every time we have a good thing going, like Sean McVay, 1 year they look good, boom, they're gone. And it's like, one time, can we just stop getting ripped apart every time we have something good? I just cannot stand that. Now, this next question, the Discord chat server, Deuce, this is from Jeff Miles. What offensive lineman besides the Chiefs tackle and Orlando Brown should we zero in on this free agency?
I don't know. I don't really have any left tackles or tackles right now in free agency. I mean, even when you think about Orlando Brown, he wants left tackle money, right? I mean, he obviously he had a great Super Bowl. You know, he didn't give up no sacks, and I think he only gave up a couple pressures. And he looked really good, regardless if you want to talk about the field conditions or not, right? But I still think he's better at right tackle. Like, I still think he's better at right tackle. So I don't know if I want to make that move. And I still think there's something in Leno. Like, I still think if you put an average or above average guard, somebody like Ben Powers, one of those guys next to him, that will improve his play. So right now, I'm just not seeing any left tackles in free agency that I want to go after.
See, I know you've said that before, Deuce. I know we disagree on it.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say I disagree on it, because I've never been able to actually say it, only type it, and it never gets out well. But if we're going to say that Leno needs better play at guard to play better overall, which isn't a crazy thing to say by any stretch. I think it's very easy to say that. But is that saying that the only reason that when he does have success is because he only has somebody good next to him? And that's where that's the flip side of the argument where I'm like, do we really want to play that game? Because that's where it kind of gets messy with it. Because he got a contract last season. Are we saying that's because it's only Eric Flowers? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think, like, even when it comes to Leno, I think he played pretty well. Like, if you look at the numbers compared to any, he played pretty well. But he has those 2 or 3 ones in the game where he gets beat, I mean, like, really bad.
Kayvon Thibodeau loves playing,
right? Yeah. And they lead to really bad plays. So I think that's even more so magnified. But to your point, because we need so much on our, like, we need like a whole revamped offensive line, and we can't do all of it. In one all season. I mean, you know, the Chiefs were able to do it in multiple ways, right? Free agency, trade, and draft. They was able to revamp that whole O-line. I just don't think he is the most needed person right now. You know, I think we still need to go left tackle or tackle in the draft, someone that we can kind of groom, someone maybe a little later. But I think that what we have in free, because really, Kyle, if we can get like someone like Powers in free agency, I really would rather go center first. Yeah, but that's not the question. But
that's that. The one name out there from Tim Towner said the McCoy the center from the Saints, because apparently the Saints are going to have to be doing some cap jumps
again for
flips.
like the 4th straight year.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, right. They always
and
do,
so they might have to trade away one of their young pieces. And McCoy is one of the best centers in the league. So, like to your point, maybe that's one of the things that they go down. One of the names for me, Tim, is Isaac Semelo. I've said that before. Obviously, being 29, he's up there in age, but he's also cheap. His projected market value was $5.5 million per overthecap.com, and that's something you could kind of mortgage with coming off the Eagles, starting 15 games. You know that is a physical and mental imposing offensive line, and that's something that Isaac Semelo would bring for you without a doubt. So that's a name that I'm circling. These other guys that are out there like Orlando Brown and others like that, absolutely they would help us. And that's somebody can play at this level and be effective. I just want to make sure that we are getting the point across that we are going to beat you into the earth and there's nothing that you can do about it. And I want those types of guys on our team immediately. And that's what I'm looking to bring in.
Right. So there's 3 tackles that I'm not sure. I would imagine 2 of them will be resigned. And this is outside of Orlando Brown. But I mean, you look at Mike McGlinchey up in San Francisco, Caleb McGarry from Atlanta, who's been fantastic in the run game. And then there's also what's from the Patriots, Isaiah Wynn, who's very undersized as an offensive tackle, but I'd like to see if he could slide inside and play guard. So those 3, I mean, those are all people that you could take a flyer on. I mean, they're all from the same offensive line class. It's the same one where the Eagles took Andre Dillard, who's also a free agent who hasn't touched the field in however long. So it'll be interesting to see. I would imagine McGlinchey and for sure McGarry with what he did this season would be re-signed. But if they're out there, man, maybe take a flyer on somebody. I don't know.
Don't the 49ers have 3 guys on the O-line they need to re-sign?
I think so. Yeah, they might not even have the money. Yeah, you're right, because they got a lot invested.
Well, they also are unloading Jimmy G this offseason, so they might actually have some extra cash to throw
actually,
around.
they restructured him, so I think
no way.
So that's already.
Remember, they restructured him so he can be unrestricted free agent. So he's not even on the cap for next year.
Wow. So it doesn't even contribute to it. Wow. So they have to make some moves.
Yeah.
Now, like to your point about Leno, I do agree with you. And also, he played 100% of the snaps. That's valuable, especially given with the offensive line, with how much injuries happen. And look, you're going to have bad games. We all have bad days at work when it just seems like everything goes wrong, and that happens. And I understand why people would think going into next season that you would need somebody new, but I also understand the fact that what he is value, and what he does bring is valuable to an extent, and he's going to have bad games. But you also are always looking to upgrade, obviously.
Yeah.
Now, this next question from Tim Towner. We heard that Goodell would like to see the sale approved during annual league meetings at the end of March. Do you think Goodell can force Snyder to accept the best current offer, as the league basically owns part of the team since they loaned Snyder the money to buy out his minority owners? And 2, do you think this owner will plan to make any changes with the front office before the end of the 2023 season, like firing Ron Rivera, the GMs, as per Sean Payton, one of the potential owners is already thinking? That was a lot. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, first off, the loan wasn't part of the team. The loan was to Dan Snyder, right? So, in a sense, the NFL doesn't own part of the team. It's just their loan is to Dan Snyder. And just talking with most people like Rick Snyder, AJ Perez, all of those guys really think that there is, and I believe this. Like I've been saying this with no sources. Is just like the Shield just does things like this. Like the NFL has some things on him, right? I believe that this has been happening for like the last 2-3 years, right?
Yeah.
They have the Murray Joe White report. I don't care if they say it's no paperwork, whatever. They have something. They have that. They have other things on Snyder, and I also believe that they have the 24 votes. I believe they have it silently. The last league meeting, I think, which is in November. I think they did something, had a silent count or whatever the case may be. So I think they have something on him, and I think they will use it, and I think they will force him out if he tries to, whatever it is that he want to do, right? I think they're going to they have whatever they need to get him out of there. So I don't think there's any doubt that Snyder sells the team. It's just the timing of it, right? I think that's the thing that we're kind of thinking about. I believe it may go into the – go ahead, Kyle.
No, I think – so with Tim – I think Tim brings up a really, really valid point, right? Because it's not like the NFL just handed Snyder $300 million, right? They just said, here you go, cash, point blank. There has to be some sort of paperwork to it. And would it be crazy for the NFL to say, fine, we'll give you a loan to buy out the other owners, but when you go to sell this thing, you have to come to us and we have to basically approve it. Like we have to make sure that you are taking the best to get the hell out of here. And maybe that is a sticking point. And I think that is smart to say that maybe that is hypothetical, but it's far-fetched.
Because what's the loan? 2027, I think he has to like 2027 or something
to pay
like
it
that
back,
to pay it back. And another thing by the league, to Tim's point, is the league basically put him in position to be able to sell this team just with him and not needing approval from anyone else.
Exactly.
So that'll make that transition easier too.
Now, do I think that they'll force him to take the best offer? No, I don't think that they're going to get into that because there probably are some legal parameters attributed to that. But I definitely do think that they have more of a voice than it's just normal. I do think, obviously, Snyder holds the cards and to say, I'm accepting this, yes or no, apparently, obviously. But I do think that the NFL does have put their foot on the gas a little bit because they can't publicly force him out because it's going to create a snowball effect on all the other owners. So they cannot do that. And so they're using their parameters to kind of, I guess the good way to say it is like kind of shrug him away, like with their shoulder, you know what I'm like, shrug him out off the cliff.
They can definitely try to help put things in place so he does get out of here. Like they could start pressuring him a little bit. And I honestly, I mean, I do think that as much as I don't like the guy, I do think that Jim Irsay coming out and saying that publicly was huge because nobody else said anything like that. You always got people like Jerry Jones and shit being like, oh, I support Dan no matter what. I mean, hey, whatever's best for business, man. And it's like when he came out there and said that, it was like, actually, I do think we could get the votes. Then it was kind of like, oh shit. Like this is the owners. A lot of owners are fed up with this stuff, man. A lot of owners don't like the look. They think that whatever it is that he did, he completely overstepped his boundaries. So I do think that they will for sure pressure him. I mean, I don't think that they want him there anymore. I think a lot of stuff is affecting their sales. And it is what it is, So good.
Jim Irsay also took like a 3-hour bathroom break.
He was also on coke. Yeah. He was also on a lot of cocaine when he said that. Driving too. Yeah, no.
That's got to be one of the funniest dude to have conversations with. I never forget one time we were drinking at my house with a couple people. Like Hall was with me, and we were just having a conversation, and all of a sudden this dude out of nowhere was just like, he wasn't in the conversation, but he was like, koi fish, and we were like, what?
How early in your life did you drop acid, dude?
And like that's the thing is like that's the kind of person Jim Irsay is. I feel like this is the kind of dude that's there, and then he says something. You're like, what did you say? What was that? Weirdo.
That's.
Before we get out of here, I know. Look, I know you and I've said that I love Witherspoon. I love Gonzalez. But I want to give you a couple minutes. Talk to me about Joey Porter. You think that he's the number one corner in this draft, and I respect your opinion on that. I want to hear why.
No, I don't think he's a number one corner in the draft, right? I think Gonzalez is the most complete cornerback in the draft. I think he's the most complete. When you talk about Porter, I think he's the best man-to-man boundary cornerback in the draft. He's long. He's always in the play. He always gets to the ball. No, he doesn't have as many turnovers as those guys. And somebody like Cam Smith and Forbes that have I think we had 6 or 7 pick sixes last year. No, he's not that guy, right? But who says that can't? Right? Yeah, Mississippi State. Yeah. So, I mean, he's always there. That's a lot of things that we say when we talk about our own guy in BSJ. Like, he's always there. And with Porter, he gives you that, I can shut this down on this side of the field. Like, he gives you that presence. Even in the match zone that we play, what we seen from BSJ, I think they can do that. I think they can do both sides like that. I mean, you think about the Giants game, what they kept doing, dinking and dunking, because Kendall Fuller just cannot play within 5 yards, throughout the whole game, like we saw from BSJ. So that's what I think. I think Witherspoon is the most the corner all-purpose that's able to play multiple positions. I think he's that guy that's best at that. So far as those three, I don't think he's the best corner, but he's my favorite corner. I think Gonzalez is the most complete. Witherspoon is all over the place. And man, Witherspoon, he has a whole lot of attitude. Yeah. Like he can bring that wood behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah. You can put him anywhere on that back four. Anywhere.
You just watch Witherspoon's tape when just his hand fighting with receivers at the line of scrimmage is so funny. It's so interesting because you can tell the dude, he's always jawing. He's fun to watch. But the thing about Porter, if Joey Porter's if his mindset, his mentality is anything like his dad's, bring that guy. I want him on my team no matter what, because his dad was a legitimate psychopath in the best way possible. Not like the kind that Kyle is, where he's an undercover serial killer, but like he's the best kind of person that you want on your team.
Yeah, and he shows that he's not afraid to get in your face either.
Yeah.
And man, we need that, man.
And Devin Witherspoon is a guy that
BSJ is so soft spoken.
And when you look at Devin Witherspoon's tape, it's not like a guy that jumps out to you as like an enforcing kind of tackler, but he is very physical in that sense. He comes with a thump with him, which generally you don't get with a number one corner, but that's somebody that does obviously offer you versatility. I know you're a big fan of Joey Porter. My bad, I didn't mean to say number one. My fault. No, but I know he's your favorite. Cool. Do you know if Jahan has said anything about Joey Porter from their days at Penn State?
I haven't heard anything.
I want to know, dude. I want to know what Jahan says.
No matter what, he's going to say something good. That's
no, I know, but I want to know about their matchups. Like, I want to know about that because I feel like that's a really good thing to gauge because Jahan is such a great route runner. That's something you want to see to project him at the next level.
Remember, all offseason, all that we heard was Jahan Dotson's beating everybody in camp except for Benjamin St. Juice. So I would imagine that if Joey Porter was anything like that, using his length to stick with him, that would be
good point.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
I mean, you ain't really hear nothing about Terry McLaurin and what's the guy for the Lions? I can't hear his name.
Amon St. Brown?
No, the cornerback for the Lions.
Oh, the cornerback.
Jeff Okudah.
Mclaurin. Like you really didn't hear none of them until like actually we're about to play each other. During the game. So you might not.
That's a good point.
Really, hear anything.
Yeah, you didn't hear anything from Okudah. Period. For the first 3 years he was in the league.
He was injured.
All of a sudden he played.
He
was just up and down. He was considered. Bust for a little bit, but he played well last year.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Unfortunately, we have no news regarding Eric Bienemy, and I wish we did. But most likely that will be coming tomorrow on Friday. We heard from Phillips on here on Monday saying by the end of the week, and it looks like that is going to happen. Fingers crossed, it's Eric Bienemy.
I know where I would take him. I would take RPM. That's the name of the place in DC. It's on K Street. It's Northwest DC. It's RPM. It's a nice. It's a Michelin restaurant, Actually, we went there for Marley's birthday, like 5-6 years ago. We met Alex Ovechkin randomly. He was there, so like, there's always a bunch of athletes and stuff. Obi was cool, super Russian, of course.
Yes.
Asked him how he felt about Ukraine and stuff. He was like, yes, I love it. Yes. We were like, what? Ukraine wasn't happening then.
No. All right, everybody, that's gonna wrap us up for this episode. I can't thank you guys enough. Hopefully, we'll have some good news to share with you on Monday and talk about Eric Bienemy heading this offense and what
at least we'll have an offensive coordinator,
right? And what that could possibly mean, because now we could kind of start filling out these other things, right? With backup quarterback, we can start looking at the draft, what we want to do. It's all going to be very, very interesting to kind of dissect what the future is going to be like with this Commanders team.
What's the dates of the combine?
I think it starts the 28th. Yeah. February 28th.
Yeah. I know it's been at the end for the last few years.
It's coming, baby. It's coming fast.
End.
April's here soon enough. Deuce, I can't thank you enough for joining us again, brother. But before we get out of here, if you just want to plug your social media, your Twitter, and also kind of talk about the community and the spaces.
Yeah, so wherever it's Redzone and Lab Podcast, wherever you do all your social interactions at, wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, TikTok, all those things. Yeah, man. So in spaces, we're there. We're there multiple times a day throughout the week. Our main time is like 11 to 2 is the show that I host, but we have other hosts that host the shows multiple times a day. We started this community that's basically based on spaces. If you like spaces, listening, or if you like chatting it up, come up, talk to us. We have this community. Anyone that's out there, you can hit me up. Please join the community. We just post a lot of whatever you don't want to put on a timeline. You want to talk about Commanders and you don't want all the haters and all that to be in it. You just throw it in the community. We all chop it up, and we also put out when we put out spaces and stuff, we usually drop it in the community. But it's real cool. I know a lot of people kind of look at a certain way at spaces. I kind of push Kyle. So now he be in there, and to tell you, Mike, he got a little spicy at the beginning of this week. In spaces. Yeah. So
why's Kyle pressing buttons? What's he got going on? What are you doing, Kyle?
I'm just man. I'm just wreaking havoc like normal.
It's because you're a conspiracy theorist. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
It's because everything's a conspiracy to you. I don't want to completely, go in on your character, but
it's true. Everything is a conspiracy.
You're a nice guy,
especially in my opinion. He's right though. Just because I get testy about things, and I don't really care, to be perfectly honest with you. I used to care about how people were perceived and stuff. I don't really care anymore, to be perfectly honest. People are going to talk the way they want to talk, and if they don't like it being the kind of disrespect pushed back onto them that they put out in the world, then maybe they should stop putting out that disrespect, to be perfectly honest with you.
Exactly.
And that's why I don't cry when it gets brought on to me. I know what I
only when you fight. You only cry when you fight.
Yes, that is true. Very good point. Very good point. But no, seriously, the Spaces thing is absolutely awesome.
Awesome.
The community, the guys are really cool. Literally, they have Spaces going on all day on Twitter. So just check out Redzone the Lab. They'll upload them, and it's just literally discussions all the time, just about random things. And it's like it just keeps you integrated into what's going on right now, and it's always great stuff to be able to do that. But from time to time, I'm gonna get a little spicy, Redzone, just because I probably haven't sipped my coffee yet, or it's just too early.
Yeah, we all do. We all, especially when rival teams coming in. Oh it gets.
The one dude came into Space and said, "Well, tell me how the Commanders could at all do anything against the Browns." I'm like, "Wait a minute, hold on."
Right.
I have respect for Cleveland fans more than just like Buffalo fans. I put them in the same category. I respect the heck out of you guys, but don't come in here talking like that. I'm not going to do that to you guys. All right, let's calm down a little bit.
Because the Browns came in there so relaxed because Deshaun Watson got him on massages. I heard.
Stop. All right, that's going to wrap us up.
No, that's what I heard.
But also, Redzone's a cool dude. You know why? Because he's also a huge fan of the movie Biker Boys, like I am, I was back in the day. Megan Good.
Yes,
That was my movie, dude.
Yes,
absolutely love
That's
it.
The best.
All right, everybody. We'll see you on Monday.
Great
Have a
White
good,
Buffalo.
Safe weekend. Make sure you guys wear underwear when you celebrate the hiring of Eric Bienemy when that does get announced. We don't need anybody getting locked up for indecent exposure like Reed a couple years ago at the elementary school. Everyone be safe this weekend. Have fun. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
Legally not a thing, so thank you, Kyle.
All right, we'll see you on Monday. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!